Well, hello everybody. This video is incredibly exciting. It's 3 a.m. but I don't care because this video says it all, I hope. You may not agree, but I think the Great Pyramid is based on a spaceship schematic which the Westcar papyrus claims was uncovered by Khufu. And in this video I'm going to prove it. And whether you agree or not, or it gives you ideas, I hope it'll give you some ideas at least. But I believe this because it's based on everything. And the Great Pyramid was covered in these interlocking white limestone tiles at one time. They were used to build the mosque in old Cairo and some other buildings. And the only other thing I know that has these in great profusion covering them are spacecraft to deflect radiation in outer space where there is no atmosphere. And actually the Westcar papyrus tells us that Khufu intended to build his pyramid based on the design of an earlier structure, and we'll get to that. We will get to that. That is Khufu. Zachariah Sitchin, I won't really get into this, but he mentions craft flying around in ancient times. He mentions the Giza being used as a landing corridor for a spaceport in the Sinai Peninsula. Now, you might think I've lost my marbles, but I am in deadly earnest in this video. This video is incredibly important. I hope you'll see why. And people like Von Daniken have talked about this is a runway, and people have rubbished him saying, look, it's bumpy. Well, how about for vertical takeoff? How about for vertical takeoff? And people have described the Great Pyramid as a machine, when quite clearly, although there is space-age precision, especially in the descending corridor, which is incredibly, ridiculously precise, more so than any modern building, the fact is, who's ever heard of a machine made of stone? A machine made of limestone? There simply aren't any. In fact, there's so much going on here which shows us that this was probably built in the Stone Age by Stone Age people. Yet, it incorporates space-age science and technology, such as the fact that all the ratios match up to the ratios of Earth. Khufu couldn't have known any of this. He was essentially a Copper Age king. And it all comes back to Loki. Loki, the fallen angel. There was a war in heaven described in every ancient religion, and Loki fell down to Earth somehow. He was thrown out of heaven. The gods were furious. And he was a kind of early benefactor of mankind, worshipped by mankind. He was placed under a huge rock to stop him from escaping. And his wife was dutifully collecting the acid dripping from a snake underground that was dripping on him. And Loki could fly around as well. He could fly in the sky. How did he fly? And it all goes back to Indian mythology. The Indians have recorded stuff which would have been in Egyptian libraries, but of course all the Egyptian libraries were destroyed. And this is the Amaravati Stupa. And if you read the Mahabharata, this is what academics are not getting. When you read the Mahabharata, you see stuff in the Indian tradition which cannot possibly have been invented by the shepherds of the day, cannot have been written by the Stone Age people of the day. It basically describes a science fiction. It's science fiction. It describes a science fiction-like world far in advance of our world today. Space stations in between the planets, all over the solar system. Unbelievable things. Tens of thousands of vehicles going planet to planet in the solar system. How could they have conceived of such a thing? And it actually says in the Mahabharata that one of the flying celestial cities, as they were called, looked like the now destroyed Amaravati Stupa. And this is what it looked like. It had a white casing. This is another relief of what it looked like. And if you look at one of the Sumerian cylinder seals and you look at this kind of bird-like object with this guy flying in it, and look at the replica, it's sort of the same thing. You see the same kind of relief as that. It's so similar. And I am using a Mac, by the way, first time I've used it. And this is what's kind of got me onto the idea that the Great Pyramid is a replica of a spaceship employing spaceship schematics. This is actually what the ancient Indians were saying. They're stupas, which are essentially pyramids because they're built for good luck. No burial, That's not what pyramids were all about. They were designed to be shining objects, replicating, I think, the shining celestial cities of the past. Celestial city is how ancient people translated ancient space station. Now, if this is getting deep, it's going to get deeper. I'm sorry, but look, I've got no alternative here. I'm not inventing any of this. Some people are going to say you've gone off the deep end. You used to talk about other stuff. I don't care. I want to tell the truth, and this is all about the truth of what the ancient people believed, and if you read the Mahabharata, they say the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, and they couldn't have known this if they were Stone Age. But anyway, they talk about ancient celestial cities flying around, glowing, giving off their own light source, and they say that they look a lot like the stupas that they used to build. So the stupa is actually a way of getting to heaven because it is a celestial city. And there would have been vertical takeoff. And every pyramid around the world is actually a kind of replica of a white celestial city. And the key is that these were white. These were designed to be shiny, often round objects, not the one in Egypt, obviously, but pyramid actually doesn't mean shape. I've covered this in earlier videos when I had much fewer viewers. A pyre or fire, pyramid was the spire in the middle. It was a mathematical height. That's what I found in the Britannica, and the Britannica really got me onto that as the true definition of pyramid. It doesn't actually mean shape until the 19th century. A pyramid is not a shape. And this is the devil of the old religion. This is Khnum. And it appears the pyramid was built for Khnum as a kind of memorial for him. He had 2 horns, like the devil, and he was pouring water just like the 3 Norns under World Mountain, which was itself a kind of proto-pyramid. All the pyramids are trying to be the center of the World Mountain. And here is where it starts to get deep. And you probably think I've lost it, but apparently Khnum created, like the God of the Old Testament, who incorporates many of the same ideas, mankind using mud on a potter's wheel. And I was thinking to myself, you rotate a man. A man is not a cylinder. You can't create a man by rotating him on a potter's wheel. You have to carve him. So where do they even get the idea of a wheel? And the fact is, you can't create a man out of mud anyway. So where did they get this crazy idea? It appears they got it from translations of earlier texts found in libraries. And I've talked about cloning. The Bible actually talks about cloning. It talks about Adam's rib. The ribs look like chromosomes, so there must have been a picture book. The chromosomes are paired up, the ribs are paired up. We have 24 autosomes in each human cell, and you take one away, you get 23. There are 23 autosomes because one's been taken away. One of Adam's ribs is missing. It talks about cloning from one of Adam's ribs, which I reckon could be the ancients getting very excited because they have cloned a woman out of just one of the chromosomes. But anyway, the potter's wheel, this is Khnum. This is Khnum's wife, Heket. Heket is a frog, a green animal, and she's actually, although Khnum is carving early man, he is a giant, you have Heket here feeding him life. It's like Heket, the serpentine, and that's Heket's face, she is a frog, the serpentine-like woman of Eden feeding life, an apple, to man. So man is sort of confused between this and this. Which one came first? This is a kind of Prometheus giant figure, the fallen angel. And man is receiving life from Heket. So what's going on? He's on a wheel? It's just unbelievable. And I think that's what the wheel was. This is the most ubiquitous tool in any biochemical laboratory. And it is essentially a centrifuge. And a centrifuge is used for concentrating DNA, the heaviest of the cellular molecules, at the side of a little test tube. And when you do this, you can then extract it with a pipette. You point the pipette on an angle and you extract the DNA. You can then put it for a chromatograph. And then you can turn it into whatever you want. You can play with that DNA. And it's amazing, you know, and the academics, there's so much information here, and the academics are never, ever going to pick up on any of this. You know, all they're going to do is they just get off on attacking each other. They love to attack each other, and oh my goodness. But, you know, I've been at uni 14 years, chemistry degree, 2 history degrees, and let me tell you, how many... I mean, this is unbelievable. How much information do we need to show that the ancients had super technology? Anyway, this is the Journal of Egyptian Archaeology, published by the Egypt Exploration Society. And I guess in the 1920s it would have looked very much like this. And now I'm quoting from Robert Bauval's book, The Orion Mystery, and he actually says, he actually quotes an article from 1925 by a man called, I'll find his name in a second, Alan Gardner. And Alan Gardner retranslates the Westcar papyrus. And it talks about Khufu and how he came up with the design of the Great Pyramid. And he actually translates it as Khufu is talking to a kind of priest who, quote, knew the number of the secret chambers of the sanctuary of Thoth. For Cheops himself had spent much time in searching for the secret chambers of the sanctuary of Thoth in order to make the like thereof for his horizon, that is his pyramid. In other words, Khufu is copying the design of Thoth's sanctuary, the god Thoth, the god of knowledge, the first Egyptian god. And why would the first Egyptian god be a god of knowledge? In order to build his own pyramid. He's looking at ancient texts. And this archaeologist in 1925, he says the scholars have got it wrong, and it should be translated as Khufu finding this information in a box of flint in a room in Heliopolis in the library called the Room of Revision. And in that box, the information will be found. So in other words, a schematic. So Khufu found a kind of schematic with ancient technology inscribed on it. And I suppose this is how he found out all the ratios of the world and incorporated all this into the pyramid, even if he was a Stone Age person, if he built the pyramid. And that's what that article says. And if we look at the word Thoth, we see the word thought. We see also the word tech, Thoth, tut. It's so similar. And the Greeks are actually they've been close to the Egyptians for a long time. They live just a few days sail away. Technology becomes Thoth logos, which is Thoth thought. So in other words, to be technological is to think like Thoth. And Thoth was Hephaestus, who was the first Egyptian king who taught the Egyptians everything they knew. And the science, they had writing right at the start of Egyptian civilization. So what's going on? Well, what's going on is Thoth is related to the memory of the fallen angel and the previous civilizations of giants who gave us our knowledge. And they had amazing technology which cannot be described today. And if you look at the ruler, if you actually research the origin of the foot, it was researched a few hundred years ago by Newton and others, and they said it comes from Egypt. But the fact is, the foot is worldwide, and it's always bigger than the human foot. You might wonder why it's bigger than your foot. It's 12 inches. I'm 6'2", and I put the ruler against my foot, and it comes to 10 inches. So how tall would you have to be to have a 12-inch foot? You'd have to be at least 7 feet tall. And of course, this is why the ancient giants were described as being so tall, and they had the whole world under their thumb. All the world was one language, and perhaps the whole solar system as well. Anyway, guys, I really hope you enjoyed that video. It's been a blast to make, new computer and everything. And please thumbs up. What do you think of all that? I totally believe this, otherwise I wouldn't say it. For me, it ticks every box. It explains every anomaly. Of course, everyone has their own ideas, and I respect that. And leave your comments below. Cheers. Thanks.